Great. I'm happy to be here. Let me see if my video let's see, start my video. And guys, it is a pleasure. Thank you very much. I wish I could be there in person like I have been in the past. I know this is an excellent conference, so hopefully you guys have had some very good presentations thus far. This presentation, which I will share now, let's see, share my screen, and let's get this going. Okay, so I believe you guys can see this. Let me get it to present mode. If you can't, please just let me know.
Yes,
okay.
We can.
Excellent. So this presentation is really meant to be a companion presentation to what you've seen, a more technical deep dive of the Zendu protocol by Dr. Roman Olenikov earlier today. So this is taking it basically bridging the technology to the product side with some emphasis on the technology, but ultimately what are we going to do with the technology? Why is the technology important? And then ultimately how people can, developers in particular, can start getting some hands-on experience with it. So Horizen is a project that I co-founded 3 years ago, back in 2017, as Zencash at the time. And we've since rebranded to Horizen. We bootstrapped the project back then as basically with Zcash technology so that we could get really good and proficient with zero-knowledge cryptography. And zero knowledge since then has become a really integral part of this new platform expansion that we've done, going beyond being a cryptocurrency. So this presentation called Real World Scalability of Blockchain with Sidechains is now meant to really take you beyond or the next step on the technology, and hopefully for the developers in the audience, you'll find some very interesting things that you can start doing right now to join the fun. So this is a blockchain conference, and I know the speakers for this conference always do such a good job talking about the importance of blockchain and what's going on. Just to reiterate, the market is exploding for blockchain, and I think that often, and this is something that we often have conversations of, blockchain is not going to solve all of the world's problems, but it for sure is a massively expanding market, and almost every large firm out there and many small and medium-sized enterprises as well realize that there's something quite important going on in this industry, and they're starting to pay attention. So 88% of CEOs for Fortune 500 companies say that they've actually taken blockchain projects from POC into some level of production, and that's just growing. So that's huge. And let's be realistic and understand that these are mainly proofs of concept. We're not really looking at major elements of infrastructure for most of the world's economy yet being built on blockchain. But for sure, big chunks of it will. So the revenues flowing into blockchain are absolutely exploding. You can see big increases just year over year from 2019 to 2020, with a big notice that 2019 was really a bear market for our industry. And it's only been recently that we've seen a bit of an uptick on valuations. And it's been very concentrated in a particular area of the industry called DeFi, decentralized finance. But that said, there's still a lot of blockchain activity going on at the enterprise level, and just businesses other than these decentralized finance applications starting to use the technology. And Horizen is building exactly the type of platform that we think will be extremely useful for those that look at blockchain as a replacement or an augmentation to actual infrastructure for their business, but also other things like decentralized financial applications, but not really emphasizing that, really focusing more on the business applications and what you can do with real blockchain. So I don't need to belabor the point of why you would want to use blockchain, but we should think about it because blockchain is used as too much of a buzzword. And when you're deep diving on the technology all day, you don't like to see these misunderstandings of taking blockchain and trying to solve things for which blockchain really should not be a solution. So let's focus on the things where blockchain is important, and then we could talk about what we're building with Horizen and just in general, this blockchain on blockchains type of architecture that is now exploding in the marketplace beyond Horizen as well. We're participating, but there are others. And you just heard about Polkadot, which is one of the other projects in this space. But why would you use blockchain? So blockchain, at its fundamental core, we're talking about peer-to-peer replicated databases, and there's no reason to have peer-to-peer replicated databases if all you're trying to do is have a database, right? So the very specific circumstances for which you would want blockchain are those for which you have multi-parties, multi-stakeholders that are distributed, don't trust each other, maybe are over different regions, maybe haven't ever coordinated together in the past and don't necessarily have a natural point of coordination. So if you're trying to bring many stakeholders from outside of your organization to cooperate on a common platform, and one where you don't have to rely on or trust a particular member of that coalition, where you can have rules of the game that everyone can monitor and adhere to participate. That is blockchain. That is the quintessential use case for blockchain. It alleviates trust issue. It solves for immutability, or making sure that information isn't tampered with by certain actors within a shared environment. It provides transparency, which is absolutely critical in the modern information age. And by the way, with Horizen and applications of zero-knowledge cryptography, you can have trust and transparency that's selective, and you can actually have information that's under the hood that you don't necessarily disclose, but you can still publish it to a blockchain, apply some zero-knowledge cryptography and some proofs, and actually validate to the world that the information is correct and accurate. It plays by the rules of the game. And when you're in an environment like probably the bulk of the current cryptocurrency blockchain on the public side is really focusing on tokens, ownership, transfer of these tokens, whether they're non-fungible, whether they're fungible, whether they're coming from the old ICO world to the modern STO world, or if they're just representing certain things like a play cat in a CryptoKitties. There are many different uses.
Robert, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Are you planning to switch the slides, or is the video not working? So
which slide are you seeing right now? Because I'm on the when blockchain is most effective.
Oh, I'm seeing the main slide, the title one.
Okay, so something's going on with the share.
Yeah, now it updated. Great.
Now it updated. Okay, so maybe let me go full screen from here and see if this helps.
Yeah,
are you on the...
yeah, it's better.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just manually change slides then. So thank you very much for interrupting me on that. And that's fine. The previous slides are really just setting the stage, because what's important now is to realize that blockchains in their original form, say the V0, V1, V2 blockchain protocols that are on the market, were not really built for the type of scalability that we're talking if we're going to the enterprise marketplace or getting significant parts of infrastructure to start using blockchain. So there is a big scalability issue, and this is where you have projects like Cosmos, Polkadot, and Horizen trying to solve scalability in a blockchain's framework. And here's what I mean by that is we've just released a protocol called Zendu. Zendu is our version of a scalability protocol. It's basically a communication protocol between blockchains. So we envision an architecture that scales is one that doesn't try to have one blockchain that does everything, but has a blockchain's environment that has, say, a central point of validation or truth, but is completely decentralized in its implementation, decentralized in its rule set, decentralized in its infrastructure, and importantly, completely permissionless in the sense that anyone can start building on the application layer without having to focus on the underlying blockchain elements in terms of consensus, network layer, and so forth. So our solution, Zendu, is something we've built totally from scratch and just released. Let's be very clear, we released a beta version of Zendu, in particular the Zendu SDK, in July of this year. So we're now 2 months from delivering to the market a beta version of our core technology, now taking Horizen from being, prior to this, a cryptocurrency with strong privacy, to now being a privacy-preserving blockchain and blockchains platform. So you can think of Cosmos and Polkadot with zero-knowledge cryptography for data privacy. This is all original work we've built from scratch with, just to show you the order of magnitude of just the beta, and the beta is probably 80% of the real solution that we're working on to deliver over the next year. It's about 114,000 lines of code across over 1,100 software files. It's a beast, and it contains 3 cryptographic libraries. The most important is a generalizable library called GingerLib. So if you guys are Snark fans out there, so zero knowledge proof fans, you can have a lot of fun by looking at GingerLib. GingerLib is a fork from Zexy, which is a library developed by Coda. And we've stripped out anything that's project specific. We've completely generalized it, and we've added new hash functions and new things to do, in particular with proof recursion. So it's a very interesting library that's generalizable. It's at the core of the Zendu protocol. So if you're an application developer and you want privacy for your applications and native privacy that's already built in, you don't have to think about another layer of privacy. You can actually have privacy endogenous to your system with GingerLib. it solves some of the biggest problems in blockchain. And again, this goes to the class of projects for which Horizen just entered. And this is the Cosmos, the Polkadot, and now the Horizen class of projects that are really working on these sidechains, or say sidechains as a service or blockchains as a service, but through a sidechain interoperability protocol. That's what we do. So we solve in a big way for scalability and flexibility, because the Zendu protocol does not require you to code anything in the core blockchain, the Horizen blockchain. All you have to do is abide by the rules of the interoperability protocol called Zendu, and then you can focus specifically on your application logic and launch your own blockchain. We provide a reference implementation. It's called Lattice, which is a proof of stake implementation built on the IOHK's ScoreX framework, built from Scala with Java wrappers. So it's accessible to the vast majority of developers that have skill and experience with Java, who can now easily deploy, and I say easily in quotations because we're looking at a beta version of our product, but easily deploy a blockchain using our SDK. And you can start focusing on what we call data boxes, which are customizable, essentially customizable logic objects. So you can add your own logic, add your own objects, and add your own application layer to the SDK. And we abstract away all of the complexity in a very similar way, like I said, to Cosmos and Polkadot, abstract away the complexity of running a blockchain, worrying about consensus, and dealing with network layer, security, and so forth. So it's a very attractive SDK for developers that now want full control over their own blockchain, rather than the other model, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, of joining a very robust ecosystem like Ethereum as an example, that is very mature and developed and has a lot of developer participation, but you are, as a developer, focusing specifically on your smart contract or your application, and you have no control over the underlying mechanics of how the blockchain operates. So if there ever comes, and the day will come, where there will be a hard fork to the underlying protocol, you have zero control over that, and if it does adversely impact your application, let's just say you're screwed. You really have no recourse. So our system is designed to give developers and businesses their own blockchain. It's interoperable with a broader framework of blockchains, a broader ecosystem, but they retain complete control over consensus and networking. And there will be no changes in the Horizen main chain protocol that would impact adversely your applications or your blockchain. So this is the big intellectual difference or architectural difference between models. We're very happy to have the beta version go out in July. And now it's really just a race to build the infrastructure. And I hope that I can give you guys good reasons for joining this, because we're starting from scratch on building an ecosystem, and we need a lot of help from developers. And I think it's a really fun environment with great opportunities to join. So in general, the three things that I want to stress here that are really important for developers and then for businesses or software companies that build is that the logic in the protocol itself is fully generalizable, in the sense that there are no application constraints on what you can do with your blockchains. So you are not constrained to a particular architecture. You're not constrained to a particular protocol. We use, with the reference implementation that I mentioned called Lattice, we use a peer-reviewed, academically robust implementation called Ouroboros Praus that IOHK pioneered and brought open source. We took that and we made it ability to interoperate in a blockchain's environment and be interoperable with another chain. And then we released that with our SDK. So you're starting with a very academically rigorous proof of stake framework, and then you focus on your application logic, and you could do anything with it. There are no artificial constraints to the types of applications you can build with it. And you have a complete SDK that allows you to abstract away everything else to make it easy for developers. It's completely decentralized, at least in the full implementation that we're gunning for next year. The implementation that is in the beta right now has an M of N proving system. So basically, the developer will declare a set M of people that can write certificates to validate transactions from the sidechain back to the main chain. And as long as the subset N of M it signs off, or sorry, reverse that, a set N and a subset M sign off on the validity of the certificate, then it's accepted by the main chain. So I would call this a semi-centralized, in the sense that you could have your own private blockchain for which you don't share the source code with anyone, and you run your private coalition. Like if you're a bank and you want to launch a banking coalition blockchain network, you can do that, and you don't have to share any information with the rest of the world. Or if you want to participate in the public blockchain world, you can have a public blockchain that you launch, and you just designate a set N of certifiers, and as long as subset M of them certified, you're good to go. What's really interesting about our protocol, and what Dr. Olinikov talked about in his presentation, was the snark implementation for how we use zero-knowledge cryptographic circuits to create a proving system that removes humans from the loop, so you don't have to declare any human beings to be certifiers of the system. You actually write a snark circuit, and we provide this for you with the Lattice implementation. And as long as the rules of the snark circuit or the rules of the system are abided by, then block certificates are valid and accepted by the main chain. So it's a really nice way of creating a totally decentralized blockchain of blockchains ecosystem where we remove any trust by trusted certifiers. And that's the really important thing. The third really important thing for developers and businesses is you have to think about how you're going to participate in an economically advantageous way. And what we provide is an endogenous, and by this I mean a built-in revenue mechanism for developers that scales with usage. So what we do is we allow developers to declare the percentage of transaction revenue from the sidechains that will be captured by the developer as a revenue for launching the blockchain. So this is a very attractive way for new developers to launch, say, an important Oracle application in the Horizen ecosystem and actually capture a percentage of transaction revenues every time that Oracle is called upon. Maybe you want to launch a DEX, a decentralized exchange in the Horizen ecosystem, and you want to capture a percentage of transaction fees for every transaction, every trade that's happened on your DEX. And the list can go on for gaming applications, supply chain applications, anything you can think of as an application developer. And now you have an endogenous way to capture revenue, which is absolutely critical because you have to think long-term sustainability of your ecosystem requires developers to be compensated for their work. And this is not something that is natively built into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or really any other implementation out there. A blockchain, this is something that we view absolutely critical and passionate about, and which is why Zendu was launched with this capability. Okay, I know I'm running out on time here, guys, so I'm going to quickly go through some other slides. We have open sourced a version of the SDK, so you can go to our GitHub and you can view the open source version of the SDK. We do have multiple companies in our ecosystem, which is built for efficiency and also raising capital. Another company is called Horizen Labs, which is launching its own SDK. It is more commercial grade, but right now we have an open source SDK on the Horizen public GitHub. Now, this is just, I have 2 slides just to show a quick comparison of the difference, because as developers, you have to think about very carefully what ecosystem you're going to build on. Now, the Horizen platform ecosystem here is brand new, so there are a ton of opportunities out there. If you want to be the first to launch, say, stablecoins, the DEX, Oracle systems, and so forth, basically the opportunity is to replicate anything that exists in other public blockchains that are useful. And in particular, I would encourage people to focus on the most useful applications that are driving the most transaction volume around the world right now, and replicate them and build them in the Horizen ecosystem. So here's an example of why we're different, because we have our core architecture as being a blockchain of blockchains environment versus one blockchain that does everything. So Ethereum takes the opposite approach, which is fantastic and serves many use cases, and it built one of the most, truly the most robust ecosystem around Ethereum. It's a powerhouse, and I have huge respect for it. But what it does is one blockchain that does everything, in the sense that it's a Turing-complete scripting language with a VM that executes smart contracts like a world's computer, and everything is done on the same world computer, which has, as we now know, scaling issues on the economic side, scaling issues on the technical side, really the technical side driving the economic side, in the sense that now it's become increasingly expensive to run applications on Ethereum because it's so successful. So this is not anything against Ethereum. This is a success story where they're so successful, but their architecture, at least in current version, has one blockchain that does everything, and therefore every application is competing for the same bandwidth, and every application has to compete with fees. And that's why they're escalating significantly. In our system, that's not the case at all, because you would have your own blockchain, and your blockchain is function specific if you want to, and all of the activity happens on your chain. Fees can stay constant, if not decline over time. And this is a choice by the developer. And this now feeds back into a broader blockchain of blockchains environment where the fees do not scale with usage. In fact, because we do things in parallel, and we'll see where things go, but at least initially the theory and the empirics show that fees are not going to be scaling in the same way. And this is just a quick visual of what I just said. We now have an architecture that allows you, the developer or a business, to launch your own chain. which you own, you have complete control over, versus participating where you own a smart contract on an underlying protocol for which you have no control. Horizen Labs is the commercial accelerating company that I mentioned. But for full disclosure, guys, I am also the CEO of Horizen Labs, co-founder of Horizen, CEO of Horizen Labs. And what we do is we offer commercial solutions. So if you're a business and you're looking at a business application, you should probably talk to Horizen Labs if you want to get in here, because we can help accelerate your blockchain development by using our more commercial grade SDK. The monetization model is, as I've already said, you participate in transaction revenues, which can be fantastic and amazing hockey stick-like revenue scale, which in the startup world, we're all dreaming of hockey stick-like revenues. If your applications or the blockchain infrastructure that you launch with our system scale massively, you as the developer or you as the company should participate in that. We have exactly the solution for that, where you get to declare the percentage of transaction fees that go to you. So it's an extremely attractive model that everyone in the space should take a look at. Why build on Horizen? There are a variety of reasons, but what I can say now, it's the Wild West in the sense that there's massive opportunity, because we've just launched this unique, massively scalable protocol that allows for direct revenue shares with developers or businesses, and it's built on the largest blockchain network in the world. So that's a fact that I didn't mention before, but we have almost 40,000 full nodes running on our network. These are registered high-powered full nodes where we enforce hardware standards and computational standards by the network. And this significant, or I would say massively, collapses the marginal cost of infrastructure in our network. So if you participate, you're getting massive economies of scale. Your applications will not scale in cost as they become successful, like they do on other blockchain projects. Because we use best-in-class cryptography, I mentioned GingerLib, and then also this recursive snark proving system for sidechain transaction validity back to the main chain. It is something that has best-in-class security, easy deployment with our SDK, and a revenue sharing model for developers is absolutely critical for scalability and long-term sustainability of these blockchain ecosystems. So guys, please, if any of this is interesting, the ecosystem is really starting from scratch. We've been around for 3 years as a project, so we've definitely proven ourselves in terms of community building. But now we have 2 months worth of beta of our product on market, and we're racing to now get the production level version of it. But the opportunities are truly endless. So there are very successful other competitive ecosystems out there, like I mentioned, from Ethereum to Cosmos to Polkadot, that have gone through the same growing pains that we are now entering. And there's massive opportunity to come in at the ground floor today as a developer or as an entrepreneur to start basically porting over the same type of infrastructure, whether it's Oracle systems, DEXs, smart contract types, classes. You can create a tokenization platform that literally just mimics the ERC standards for Ethereum. The opportunities are really endless, boundless, as we like to say by design. So come in, participate. We have an early access program called HEAT, the Horizen Early Adopter Program, where you have early access to our technology, to all of the updates, and direct access to our development team. You can earn bounties directly by participating in our open source repositories. So click on the QR code in the middle there if you want to earn bounties today. We have a whole bunch of tasks open, and we're going to be adding to them significantly and actually building an incentive system into our bounty program so that you can actually earn bounties by getting other people to complete bounties. So it's actually a really nice, scalable, viral way to get development done in the community context. And guys, also just join us in Discord for the technical conversation and community conversation. It's critical for ecosystem building. And with that, guys, that's all I have. I'll stop here. Thank you for your time. And I wish I could be there in person. This is always an amazing conference. Next year.
Thank you very much, Robert. I also hope that the next time we meet, it will be on offline event. You're doing great things. We have some of your fans in the chat who are rooting for your project. And actually, we have a couple of questions from the chat.
Awesome.
The first question is from Nick Dean. He says, I am interested why your solution is better than other sidechains. Why should we build on it? Is it easier to develop, faster?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I would say different is the right word. So not necessarily better, because I don't want to denigrate other projects that are out there because they are fantastic. Cosmos and Polkadot are two most closely aligned competitors, and they're doing a fantastic job. Our system's different. We go for high security with decentralization on Snark So basically recursive snarks is at the core of our technology, which, you know, it may not look like, I mean, from a technology and say like R&D perspective, it's massively fascinating. And our scientific team is so excited to deliver this to market. But I think the market will realize, say a year from now and beyond, how important this is. Because rather than, you know, the early sidechain models that are out there, if you wanted to build some new functionality, some sidechain that does something unique, you had to hard code this in some way into the core protocol. And getting a group of core developers to care about what you're doing enough to modify their core architecture for your application was not going to happen. So then you had the evolution of, say, like the next generation, which is where we are now with Cosmos and Polkadot. Like I said, fantastic programs. Ours now goes a step further with built-in privacy. So if privacy and say like application and data privacy for users is a core aspect of what you want to deploy to market, as it should be, by the way, since data, the economic value of data is skyrocketing these days, and users now are starting to get pissed off with the old tech giants that are, you know, basically that Faustian bargain of taking your data and monetizing your data in exchange for using your free platform. Nothing's free in life, right? You're actually giving them enormous economic value. There's a massive multi-trillion-dollar market out there for entrepreneurs and developers to tap into, where you give your users application data privacy, let your users control their own data, let them monetize their own data, and your applications will go viral and explode. This is my prediction, and this is where we really come to the market as a unique differentiator, is zero-knowledge cryptography is at the core of what we do, at the core of our SDK, and if that's important to you, we have an excellent solution for you, and that's why you should consider Zendu. And also, guys, the last thing that I keep harping on is, for sustainability, you have to give developers a direct revenue model. This is something that hasn't happened before in the early days of the .com days, to the modern big tech platform days, to even like the early blockchain days. Developers are never given a direct revenue model. We're giving them a direct revenue model, and this is something that's going to explode.
Thanks, Robert. And we have the second question also from Nick. He's saying, I like developers earning fees. Can we split that fee between developers and, let's say, other stakeholders of the project?
Absolutely, and that's actually what we do with our core blockchain. So what differentiated us early on was we carved out a different group of stakeholders than you typically get in a public blockchain, because we recognize that to build a public blockchain ecosystem, there are many valuable contributions that even go beyond developers. So first of all, developers must be compensated, but then there are many other people that go to build the success of your ecosystem. And you should, to be sustainable, the math equation is on the margin. So marginal contribution needs to be matched with marginal benefit, right? This is the economics 101 of creating sustainability. And this is exactly what we did on our main chain. What we're doing with the Zendu protocol and carving this out for developers. Now, developers have the unique choice of being able to split this further at their discretion. And this is the key, it's at their discretion. So if you're a business or a developer, you can choose, hey, maybe someone that does evangelism for your chain is really important. Maybe a marketing company is really important. Maybe another investor group to get them to give you an investment. You can actually sign a contract with them that gives them a percentage of the transaction revenue. This is another way that maybe crowdfunding can be done in the future. So it opens up a massive source of new opportunities that did not exist in blockchain before.
Great, thank you, Robert. That's all questions we have for today. Thank you again for taking your time to participate and for your presentation.
Truly my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. This was a pleasure. And like I said, next year, I hope to be doing this in person.